My name is David Weygandt, and I will be the moderator for this talk. I have not given the panelists the questions ahead of time. We are going to have a conversation that is candid and open and honest, yeah? We have 5 cycles in a business, so they say. What are those cycles? We have the seed, development, or the ideation stage. We have the startup phase. We have the growth phase as the business grows. We have maturity, when the business feels like it's a mature adult. And then we have either the decline of that business, the exit strategy, or a decision to reinvest and renew that business. So my question for each of y'all is, when did your business start? So what was the year? What stage do you think your business is in currently? So we have a frame of reference for your answers today. And what is the moment? Let's start with Brian.
All right. Well, so I'm with the Strong firm. The firm was founded in 2004. When I joined in 2012, I'd say it was in a stabilized phase from a business cycle perspective. What was your third question?
What's the size of your business at the moment?
In terms of what?
How many employees?
We've got, I think, 12 employees.
Awesome. What about you, Megan?
So Megan Alarid from Heightened Leaders. My business started in 2016, was official 2017. Business lifecycle phase, it's different daily. So sometimes it's in ideation, sometimes it's in decline, sometimes it's wherever, but I think that's really the growth phase. So, and there's 2 of us now.
Fantastic. What about you, PK?
Yeah, PK Kvien with the Viking Advisory Group. We're 11 and we're growing, so we're in the growth phase. Started in 2009, so we've been in the growth phase for a long time. But no, it's definitely growing, and like a lot of people took a little stabilization during the pandemic, but we're back on track.
Zach Richmond Realty Group, Remax the Woodlands in spring. I don't think that was a question, but I'm going to say that anyways. We are just over 5 years, I think 5 years and 2 days. So it's very exciting. We have 6 people, but we're kind of transitioning right now. I don't think we'll ever get out of the growth phase. At least I hope not, that with our goals that we've aligned with our business, but we're reaching maturity where most of my day has to do with business related items rather than sales or relationship or client based things. So definitely a lot of learning.
Awesome. So just to put out some statistics, about 80% survive after 1 year, small businesses. 2/3 survive in 2 years. So y'all have survived quite a long time. What has gotten you to the point you're at today?
Okay, I'll start this one. Okay, so this is a loaded question. So yeah, most businesses fail, especially in our industry. 9 out of 10 agents will be out of the industry in the first 2 years. I believe it's actually 75% in 6 months, but we don't have a statistic. That's when license renewals happen. And most of them will be solo for a long time, but we have 6 people. I started with my mother-in-law and myself. So what really got us going is I tried to do it solo myself and realized I had no idea what I was doing. I thought I knew a bunch of people, and I'm sure you can relate it to all your industries or your jobs, your businesses. Just because you have an idea about it doesn't mean you know the nitty gritty. So did 2 transactions, went horribly wrong, and that can kill your business right off the bat because that is your first word of mouth is all negative. But fortunately, they were close friends, so they didn't badmouth me. They actually referred me. But I called my mother-in-law, who had worked in the business for 5 years, who's really good at the business side of things. And I said, hey, if you come down, we can start this together and we can make a little family practice. So she complimented me. If Marlis wasn't a part of our business today, I would not be up on the stage representing Richmond Realty Group. And I know since she's not here, I do have to say The other thing that's really important to why we've been able to make it is our strong faith and tithing. I mean, don't underestimate that at all, especially being a small business owner.
That's fantastic. Most people wait until, later in their business to actually give back. So
Yeah, no, we lost $150,000 the first year, but we didn't stop tithing.
that's awesome. What about GPK?
Yeah, no, it's the same, a lot of the same story. It's surrounding yourself with good people, listen to them, and going back to some of the key points from the speech earlier today were network and don't be afraid to reach out when you do need help.
Anything else to add to that?
From my point of view, it's nothing but purpose. If you get out of bed every day with a reason, it keeps you fighting. It keeps your momentum building. It keeps you wanting to help people. And, doing what I do, business coaches, business consultants, they fall into the market and fall out of the market. If you know why you're doing it, you'll keep going every single day, no matter how bad it is.
That's awesome. What about you, Brian?
I'll just add to that. I mean, I think the big thing is just to never stop working. We're talking about business life cycles, which imply that it comes to an end, but really, as long as you're in it, you have to keep going at it every single day. And even if you're, quote, stabilized, that doesn't mean anything for tomorrow. So just got to keep working.
That's good. Some good advice. A couple of y'all talked about people in your network. How did you decide to muster the courage to say, I need help? Where did it have to get bad to have that question populate, or how did you decide to ask for help?
The first time is always the toughest one, right? So after a while, you start trusting that it works, and you kind of lose that fear of rejection, and you lose the fear of not getting good advice. People are mostly happy to tell you their experiences, to they failed, and if you can learn from somebody else's mistakes, you're way ahead, because that doesn't cost you anything.
Yeah, first one's the hardest. Imagine being your mother-in-law that, you're responsible for taking care of her daughter. So yeah, that was definitely a call. But no, I mean, if you don't understand that you always have to keep asking and always have to keep searching, then you're already, like Brian said, you're not going to be stabilized for much longer, and you'll be on the decline. I mean, even today, the new challenges I face, I'm having to call on people all the time. I got roasted at an event a little bit ago where Rachel and I were being honored because the MC said, everybody in here, raise your hand if Zach's told you at one point in time you're his mentor. So it's like what Meredith said from the junkie bags. I mean, it's so true. You can pick up something from every single person. Do not underestimate the value of anybody, no matter if they're working for a company, a corporation. Shoot, I've even actually gotten some good things from kids of our own clients. They've helped us with some social media stuff. So everybody potentially can help you grow, and don't be afraid to ask. If you stop asking, well, Brian might be representing you.
That's true, Zach.
You want to follow up on that since he
Well,
called your
no,
name
I
out?
won't respond to that, but I will say that an important part, at least we all have exposure to the Woodlands and Montgomery County area, and I think the relational aspect of this community is something that if you're in business here, if you're starting a business here, you have to really take that to heart. It's a really big part of having success here. And so the idea of reaching out to people, connecting, finding resources is critical to being a part of this business community.
So one of the first things that anybody ever told me when I was starting my business was the human nature is to help. So if you're not asking for it, you're actually hurting the people around you. So ask for help, no matter what it is, or give help, just help, because it's human nature to do it, and you're hurting people if you're not.
So looking at the life cycle, you have to kind of go to some data. And the size of a business is kind of dictated by how many employees in some circumstances. So about 20 years ago, the average company had 20 employees after 10 years of business. Currently, businesses that were started back in 2011 have 11 employees. What is the reason for that? Are we using technology more? Do you see businesses surviving leaner longer? What are your thoughts on that?
I think one of the things is that we in business aren't so beholden to everyone wearing one hat and only sticking in that one lane for everything, especially from a small business perspective. We're always looking for people that have multiple skill sets, abilities to flex. And because of that, each individual body has a lot more utility. So if you're able to utilize that, you get a lot more efficiency and effectiveness out of a single body, probably a lot more than it used to be when everyone had one job. That's all they ever did. And I think that necessitated more bodies.
I do think technology has a big role in that. I do think your ability to leverage technology, and you're not so bound by a location that you used to be. Even though we do finance and accounting, most everything's in the cloud these days. So our main office is in Conroe. We got another office in San Antonio, but I don't have to be in Sugar Land to help somebody in Sugar Land. I think we're all getting a little bit tired of the Zoom and Teams and stuff like that, but it does help you to kind of leverage that technology, and you can reach a lot more people from one location. You don't have to have a physical presence in all those locations.
Shameless plug, we're in real estate. So if you're in Katy, we will go there. If you pay me, we'll go. Technology has definitely been impactful. I mean, I make this joke a lot. I can't brag on my mother-in-law enough, but IBM has Watson. We have Marlis. I mean, she literally does 4 jobs in one. So we're fortunate to keep low staff because of that. But staffing is, that's 70% of our total expenditures. And so one person on our team, Heather, she does our listings, our stagings, and is an agent. We have Alicia, she's an agent, a transaction coordinator. Christina's our buyer's agent and community liaison. Everybody, like Brian was saying, has multiple facets to their job. I mean, that's the beauty of small business. Every day we wake up is a totally different day, which I think our team loves that. But if you don't have the culture that supports, like, man, I just can't brag enough about what Meredith was saying. She nailed on the spot. Culture is the most important thing. And we are a team, and we make sure everybody knows that. Sure, I'm the one that's on the check and they love that, but I don't view anybody on our team any more important than anybody else, except for Marlis, because she's 4 people. So she gets 4 times the credit. But it's just fun. And when you're building something together, I don't think people care as much about having to cross over from different job specifications.
So I 100% agree with you. People first, culture first, 100%. But we are going through something right now. And what you just described in those stats is the reason why we're going through it. We're this great resignation or the great reshuffle or whatever it is that's going on where we can't find people. It's because we've worked them so much. We've expected so much more out of them. And if you can't back that up with a great, strong culture, like Zach was saying, you're going to have this problem where you can't find people, can't retain people. So culture first always, but look at what you're asking your people to do. Over the last 2 years, we've put so much on our teams. Now it's time to say, okay, what can we take off your plate? Because we will start to run into these staffing problems like we're now seeing.
Y'all both said something about culture. How do you actually create culture in your businesses?
All right, I'm taking that one first. Modeling, deciding what your culture is, what you want it to be, and then model it everywhere. So core values, purpose, mission, vision, all of those things, and then live it every single day. Move it, remove it if it's not there, and 100% celebrate it when it is.
Yeah. So when we started up our real estate company, Marlis and I spent 2.5 weeks just on our core values. I mean, it sounds so dumb because it's only 3 sentences. And why would it take us 2.5 weeks? But that was everything for us and what we live by even to this day. It's to serve to the best of our God-given ability, exceed expectations always, and give time and resources back to the community. And it's also being able to preach that and have accountability. You know, during Corona, it really hit me. I'm a very outgoing person, so I went through a depression. I mean, I took a sabbatical for a bit, but the team covered me and didn't make me feel bad about it. But Christina brought it to light. I mean, we were having a one-on-one. I was asking her how she was doing, and she was like, you know, Zach, everything's good. Don't worry about results. You know, just worry about serving to the best of our God-given ability, exceeding expectation, and give time and resource. I mean, it was like, I just buzzed through that real quick because I'm excited. I mean, to have an organization where your team can come to you and say, we got you, believe in the mission and the purpose of why we're doing it, and don't put too much on your shoulders. And when you're ready, come back. I mean, that is something that we have to work on every single day. I mean, we didn't get there overnight. It's been a 5-year work in progress, and it still will be. But I mean, that openness and accountability to be able to accept the criticism is just as important as giving it.
Ryan or PK, you want to add anything to that?
No, I agree with.
Awesome.
Megan's the expert, so listen to her.
Now, I'm going to touch a little bit on what Zach just said about being depressed a little bit. When you start a business, when you're growing, you're managing it, you're wearing a lot of hats, like Megan said. There's some sleepless nights, perhaps, the quiet desperation of being on an island if you don't have those mentors like Zach has. How do you manage it all?
We have Marlis.
Come on.
No, I mean, it's tough. I mean, we contract out our social media, we contract out our bookkeeping. I tried to do all these things in the beginning. And then if you look at the data, which is incredibly important, if you look at your cost metrics, all right, what is my dollar per hour usage with serving clients versus doing these background reporting? Do the clients care that I'm the one that's going to the bank and depositing the check? Do they care that I'm the one that, you know, turned off the lights when we left? No, they want to make sure that we're serving them, we're taking care of them, putting them first in everything that we do. So you have to understand your value and the leadership component to it. I mean, this is every day is a jungle when you wake up. So you just got to be prepared for it.
It took me a long time before I was comfortable delegating. I think that was when I finally felt like, okay, it's time to give some of this up. That's when we truly started growing. And so I was the one that was holding the company back. Nobody else was. And so that was a big step. And kind of goes back to some of the stuff we talked about just a little while ago about surrounding yourself with good people, trusting the people around you, asking for help when you need it. So that, I think, just being able to delegate and trusting the people around you is the two biggest things that I did.
So it can feel like you're riding a wooden roller coaster in a hurricane. That's business, right? Until one day somebody told me that you only do 3 things. You get business, you do business, and you protect your business. They're the only 3 things you do. So if you can put those 3 things in categories and see who you need help and who can help you get business, and who can help you do the business, and who can help you protect the business, and where do you want to be? Where do you want to spend the most time? Where do you get the most value? Where do you spend the most value? It's amazing. And you can just block yourself out into those 3 things. And today I'm going to get business. Tomorrow I'm going to do business. And on Friday, I'll protect the business. And it's as simple as that is. That's business. And manage it that way.
Yeah, I think you kind of have to reframe the question. It's not a matter of how do I get it all done? How can I do it all? It's what can I do today? Because the reality is a lot of times you're not going to be able to get it all done, whether it's today, tomorrow, this week, this year. So a lot of getting through that challenge is being willing to prioritize, make tough decisions and focus on what you can control and deal with what you can't as it comes.
Brian, I'm going to ask you the next question. Be prepared for this one. At what stage in the life cycle of the business should the business owner call on professionals to help protect the business?
Well, as a lawyer, the answer is before you start. The reality is a lot of people don't. As a startup, you are trying to allocate your resources, aka your funding, as much as possible. So professional services might be on the lower end of your priorities. But we see it all the time where if we have a client that comes to us at the beginning with an idea and we can help them set it up at the beginning, then they're set up and they're good to go. When we have clients that come to us after they've been set up and operating and they've run into an issue, it usually costs them more money, time, resource to deal with the problem than it would have if they had just done it at the beginning. Professional services, not just legal, but around all of us, they're an investment, and so treat it like that. Be willing to spend on it, and then hope that you get the benefit.
PK, I'm going to go to you. What about financial professional services? When
No, it's I think it's the same answer really, where it's a lot more expensive to fix something that's wrong than it is to do it right the first time. And so go to people who've done it before and ask them for their advice and make good plans. It doesn't cost very much to make a good plan, but it can be very costly not to follow it. So throughout the entire cycle, I think you go to professionals, just not the startup. It's managing the growth. It's even when you're stabilized and you flatten out, you need to revitalize. Going to somebody else, bringing in resources like Megan and coaching, those are good investments that gets you to the next level.
anything else to add, Megan or Zach?
Yeah, I mean, this year I had a $25,000 one of those improper plans with just tax structure. I mean, just that one thing without us changing anything cost us $25,000 more in taxes. And that was not a fun lesson to learn. Man, I just, I can't express enough. So I used to be a commercial real estate lender before this. And before anybody got the money, we'd have to go through all the stuff. Most small businesses don't get loans from businesses. They don't get vetted by angel funds, all that stuff. Franchises like Josh. I mean, it is such a hard thing to say, hey, you need to spend this $2,000, $4,000 to get everything ironed out before you even open up the doors. But man, I'm telling you, once you do make it, if you do make it, it can be very costly for the lack of planning you put up front. If you look at the Woodlands today, I mean, it was a master plan community where every single road was already planned. I mean, not the same material, not the same way it was, but they had already planned, 8, 10, 12 lane roads when there was still just a dirt patch and trees. So, I mean, you talk about one of the most successful stories of planning. Look at the Woodlands.
So let's move forward into the startup or growth phase. We've probably heard the phrase, measure what matters. We have two different types of KPIs or key performance indicators. We have lagging and we also have leading indicators. So lagging would be, revenue or some sort of profit margin. And then leading would be leads, the actions you're taking prospectively. Which KPIs do you track in your business and which ones do you think are more important for the cycle that you're in?
We're growing, so the pipeline is probably what I look at the most. What's coming up? Where am I going? So I personally track what's coming down more than I track what's happened.
So for me in growth phase 2, and sometimes doctors make the worst patients. So I will say this, it took a reminder that I probably should be managing and watching my leading indicators, like how many phone calls I make a day. 5 calls a day, that's my rule. And I may have forgotten to stop doing that over the last couple of months. So thank you. But you have to, if you want to grow, you've got to manage the stuff that you do every day in the, because that's what impacts the results. The results not necessarily matter. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say we have to track both. You know, in our world, you deliver that service, you got to collect on it, and then you got to get new service in the door. It doesn't repeat itself without you doing something. So, you know, I think most businesses have to do at least a little of both of them. And I think it does depend on where you're trying to take your business, where you are in that business life cycle. But for the most part, it's a balance that probably doesn't get too far off of 60% favoring one side or the other.
Yeah, you got to know the numbers. Doesn't matter what business it is. Doesn't matter if you're a janitorial service. Doesn't matter if you manufacture chairs. You know, it doesn't matter what you do. You have to track. You have to know your numbers. I mean, that is the basis of every business. If you don't know it, ask somebody, learn, because without that, you're going to fail. But it's hard because the intangibles, and this is what I have to get reminded of, because I get so results oriented so many times. We come into our Monday meetings after our Bible study and we talk about, all right, what do we have under contract? Who are we working with? You know, all that stuff. But you get so focused on that, you lose sight of why you got there in the first place. And so it's just good to have that accountability. I mean, the people is the KPI you should be measuring. I mean, you know, I know it's so cheesy and cliche, but you know, we've had over 450 transactions. Those are all people that said, hey, you know, we support you. We love you. We want to work with you. And like, you should just be friends and become like, they'll help you out. Our people are fantastic. Our staff is awesome. When they're happy, we're cruising. We're always, I don't know. I wish there was a KPI for like objective thing or things you can't measure. That's qualitative, which came with emotional intelligence and just relationships. I mean, that should be the number one indicator that really is. Because if you take care of people, then you're going to have, we say in our business, employees first, clients second, profits third. And if we do that and put God first, I mean, everything else will take care of itself. There's ebbs and flows, like we're going through one now, but still, we're still having a good time.
How do you assess the gaps in your business? What kind of tools do you utilize to determine that you have a hole?
I think there's 2 parts of it. The one is, like you said, the more objective KPIs, numbers, leads, tracking all the business metrics. That's going to show you where the real quote business side of what you're doing might be lacking or failing. But you also do have to take in consideration all the things Zach just talked about, all the intangibles. And I don't know if there's necessarily a great metric for that. That's more the job of the owner, the management team, the leadership team, to be constantly gauging the business, the people, what's going on around you that has nothing to do with the numbers. And I think you've got to be doing both.
Yeah, I agree with that. And the HR side of things is harder to measure. We, as a finance firm, we try to figure out KPIs, you know, when to hire, when to fire. And this becomes more important, I think, the bigger you get. Because when you're a certain size, a business owner typically has everything in here. But after a while, it becomes more and more difficult to manage for one person. The numbers get harder to keep track of, especially in your head. And then these more intangible measurements become even tougher to manage. So I think the looking at your business and trying to figure out ways to measure these gaps, especially on the HR side and the people side. It's extremely important as you grow.
Gaps in business are, they're there, they're under rocks, they're right in front of your face, they're everywhere. And I think it's kind of unfair for me to answer this question because I teach these tools for a living. And there's a tool truck outside full of ways to figure out these gaps, but setting goals, setting plans, using scorecards, checking in with people, having conversation, tracking towards things that you need to. And when you're not hitting them, asking the question of why aren't I? Is it because of me? Is it because of the system? Is it because of the process? So.
A couple of y'all talked about meeting regularly. What kind of meetings do you have in your business? Do you meet to just meet, or are they effective or efficient meetings? What do they look like?
And it depends on what type of business you want. When I left corporate world, I wanted to build a place that I wanted to go into work every day, and a place that other people I thought might want to come in every day. So we have every Monday morning, pending a golf tournament. We have at 9:30, we come in, we do our Bible study. Well, I say 9:30. I'm always 15, 20 minutes late. My mother-in-law is about 30 minutes late. So about 10 o'clock, we get the Bible study rolling. And that's about 45 minutes. And then after that, we just kind of talk about what's going on. But at the end, we just kind of visit about what's going on in life. You know, it's just, we just had a company retreat because I believe that we just need to get away from it all and just have a good time, build bonds. And one of the things that was talked about by every single employee is how invigorated they feel every single week coming in, meeting with people face to face, seeing everybody in this world of Zoom and, you know, Skype and all that stuff. It's like, there's no personal relationships. And we started a business where we wanted personal relationships. I mean, we're real estate. I mean, yeah, it sounds sexy and all, but you know, there's another real estate agent I can throw an accordion down the street as far as I can, and they'll probably hit 3 real estate agents. There's so many. So what makes you different from everybody else? And that's literally the care we put into our people, which they put that care into the people we serve. You know, if you're going through the growth phase, the startup phase, all that stuff, you can't look at just metrics only. You don't get there unless somebody takes a chance on you. So you have to take some risks, and then you get those risks rewarded back. I mean, you can't just say, all right, you know, do this, do that, do that. Like literally, I sold a house for somebody that I mean, I didn't even know why they even asked or offered for me to work with them, but they said, I really like you. You look like you need some help. Here you go. Like, I don't deserve, and I did a terrible job, and they've recommended me 4 people. So people are everything. You talk about gaps. I got a ton of them, but the people have covered for them. Sorry, that was a little rant.
I almost forgot my question. I hope you remember it, Megan.
I did. It's because I'm super passionate about it. And so doctors have their operating room. Actors have their stage. Business leaders have their meeting. That's where you show up and you report on your business. That's where you take care of your business. That's where you give your business love. And that's where you show off your skills. So if you're just meeting to meet, that's not the best thing to do. You meet to report on the business, solve the business problems. And if it's you and your leadership team, fantastic. If it's you, fantastic. But spend that time and work on your business. And if it's just you, find somebody that wants to meet with you and work on their business and share that time together. But that's your stage and you should show off on it.
What about you, Brian? What do y'all do for meetings?
Well, yeah, unfortunately, we sell time. And so things like meetings, if they're non-billable, we try to keep to a minimum. Certainly we have a lot of client meetings, but you know, that's a different story. But no, I mean, internally our meetings, we try to be purposeful. If we're going to have a meeting, there is intent behind it. It's purpose driven, and it's going to be limited in scope so that we're not, quote, wasting time. But if you talk to any lawyer, professional person who bills by an hourly rate, they'll tell you know, it's really easy for them to do the math and to say there's X amount of dollars sitting in here right now, not making money. So our world's a little different.
I kind of want to follow up because I know this is, you know, I know the questions you're asking them for a good reason and they're important, but, you know, we fortunately have had very good retention. And to me, if you want to talk about metrics, numbers, all that stuff, the cost of me not having to hire somebody and train the fact that somebody's deep in their relationship with us and continues to believe in what we do and serve, I'm saving a wealth of time and money with having people that enjoy being with each other. That's the biggest fear we have is, okay, do we go to 10 people? We probably could, but are we going to still have that same culture? So there's a lot of things to look at, but I don't mind meeting to meet. We do a lot of company happy hours, and we have a family that's always there covering for each other. And I don't feel like I'm doing anything wrong, even though we're probably could be more efficient with our time, because I feel like I'm growing a company with our team that's going to be there for the next 40 years and nobody's going to leave.
Anything to add, PK?
No, I'd go back and we bill by the hour too, for the most part. So our meetings do have purpose. We ask people to come prepared. Look at the agenda before you show up. Those are the kind of things. But then do take time to have fun as well.
Yeah, I'm not discounting. We go over the metrics and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But we spend less time on the metrics. So I just want to say. Very important point. You got to do it.
When people start a business, they typically hear from people, maybe a banker, you need a business plan. Is that true? Did you create one? Did you sit around and type your business plan? Did you look at your industry and compare and contrast when you started? And as your business has grown, do you continue to compare yourself with others?
Yeah, I wrote a business plan, and of course afterwards realized that I spent way too much time on the wrong things in the business plan. Should have spent a lot more time on the mission and the vision rather than being a numbers person, the budget and the forecast. Even to this day, it's very useful to go back and look at that original business plan and figure out, okay, this is the road we kind of started out on. It's been a lot of curves. We've changed a lot, but the purpose behind it all is still the same.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a big believer in planning generally. And so, that term business plan gets thrown around it. That can mean something different to you. It doesn't have to be the traditional model of business plan where you've got all your projections and forecasts and all that. But I think if nothing else, you should go through the exercise of thinking through those issues, even if you never get it down to a written plan, but something that, just forces you to really consider all the good that might come, as well as all the challenges that are likely going to come too, and then be willing to revisit that. Like PK said, I mean, not just for the sake of reminiscing, but also for the sake of, figuring out other things you could be doing better, because your plan set you down one path and you really need to be going down the other.
My business plan had 4 questions. What do I want to do? Why do I want to do it? Who am I going to be doing it? And how am I going to make it happen? That was it. I didn't do the big giant plan. My husband asked me for one when I told him I was going to quit my job and start this. I still never gave it to him. So
Was that helpful to you in your journey?
absolutely. And I go back to, I still have the original one. It's got bullet points. It's grown over the 4 years, but it has bullet points. I went back to it. I did a talk for a group a couple of months ago, and I went back to my original one, and I had checked the box on every single thing. So
Yeah, incredibly important. You got to, because just talking it out helps you understand even what you're thinking. I mean, is it really a good idea? Is it a bad idea? When you say things out loud, you're like, okay, well, maybe that doesn't sound as good. And when you say things out loud, it's like, all right, this is pretty cool. All right, we can roll with this. But we do we try and do it every quarter, where we set up business goals, where we have, for that quarter, we have 3 business and 2 personal that we want to try and achieve with the business. So we try and do a cumulative volunteering hours for all of our employees together. We try and do something that deals with how many times we all go to church, that sort of deal. And then we have our metrics for goals, for production, client sit downs, all that stuff. But we revisit it every quarter and just talk it out. Whether we don't really write it down. Rachel's a good scribe for us, so she does. But no, it's imperative just to say it out loud.
So as the business goes through the growth phase and maturity, you're expanding. How do you know when it's the right time to expand or reinvest money in the business? And, what does that look like for you?
I'm bad. I hire early. If there's somebody that I want to be in our business long term, I hire them even if I don't have for them what they need. And we try and build through it. I mean, I don't know. I'm terrible at this. I mean, we hired Christina when I don't think we were ready for her. And it took us probably 4 or 5 months to figure out how to get her in the groove of things. But now she's crushing it and she's living up to the potential and even exceeding that. But we probably hired her probably a little too soon for our business, but it was worth the investment because, I mean, she's just crushing it right now. So I hired 2 assistants for Marlos and I when we didn't even have enough production to give to them. So I was just giving them random tasks, but they've been with us through the long haul, and now we have the stuff for them. And now I don't have to worry about, trying to run around to find somebody to fill it.
I definitely think you got to continuously reinvest in your business. It's probably one of the most important things that you do as a leader, whether it's property, whether it's people, whether it's technology, systems, policies, procedures, all of it has got to be reinvested, and you got to look at it all the time. Because otherwise you do get into that decline phase. Your business is then on a path to slow death. It just, you got to keep reinvesting. That's one of the biggest things as a business leader, and in yourself as well. Education, seminars, training, those are all incredibly important things that you have to do as a leader.
And you have to think about the people you're supporting. So your team members, your clients, like you're reinvesting in them too. So growth, when it starts to become a burden for you, or it starts to feel like you don't have time to do it, that's the time where you reinvest back in, because it's eventually going to trickle out to the people you support.
Yeah, I think you have to decide, are you going to hire because you are growing, meaning you have an actual need, or you're going to hire because you want to grow? And those hiring decisions are really 2 different things. And they're gonna change the way you approach it. They're gonna change potentially the type of candidates you're looking for or looking at, and the ultimate decision of whether or not to do it. So I know in our world, being really intentional about hiring is important, particularly since for us, the revenue, the production is directly tied to that person. So if they're not producing, they are just a cost to you at the end of the day.
So when I was asking people about what questions they wanted to hear, almost every person said, when do you know it's the right time to sell? And how do we get there? How do we get to that point where we know that we can sell it?
The second I wake up and don't want to go to the office is when I'm going to sell. I mean, I don't have a rhyme or reason for it. If my heart's not in it, then there's no point. I want to make sure if I do sell, I place all my people in good spots. I don't leave them dry, but I'll probably start something up and ask them to come join me, and we'll try and figure that out. I mean, I don't have a good exit strategy, and especially in real estate, because we're really only as good as our last deal. You look at some of the businesses up here on the stage. I mean, there is definitely intellectual property and goodwill that comes with these firms. But for me, if I don't do it, they'll just call their neighbor or their sister or whatever. So if you don't have the heart to show up every day, sell. That's my theory.
The finance guy in me say sell on the upcycle, right? It's the same thing as in when trying to sell your house. You don't want to sell in a down market. But I do believe that a lot of this, and we're seeing this now coming out of the pandemic, there's a lot of people that are tired, that are saying, you know what, I didn't sign up for this. And so we're actually seeing a lot of activity in the M&A space for small businesses. And a lot of it is not financially driven. It's heart. But you couple that with low interest rates and a few other things, it actually is a pretty good time to sell. I think we have is there a market for it? Is there a buyer? And that is the other thing that we're seeing also is a lot of people coming out of the pandemic. They're saying, I can buy somebody and double the size of my business. So we see both sides of the fence. We see people that are tired, but we also see people that have become energized. They're out there seeing people again. They're meeting people. They see opportunities. Every transaction has two sides. So you got to have a willing seller and a willing buyer. And so we're actually seeing a lot of that right now.
I would say that the first time you think about selling is the day you start your business and you build it to sell it. And the day you sell it is the day that it doesn't light your fire anymore.
I'd add that, I think it's somewhat of a fallacy to assume that you will have an opportunity to sell. A lot of businesses out there, kind of like Zach said, either because just the nature of the industry or because of the inherent value that you've built just isn't sellable. Unless there's a market, there's someone willing to buy what you have. Doesn't matter if you want to sell or if you've been thinking about selling, you're not going to sell. Sometimes you're lucky to get anything back to maybe recoup some of your original capital investment. So I think really you have to be intentional if you want to have an ultimate exit strategy and say, I want to be able to sell this business. So that means you have to build it. If all you have is a sustaining business, there might be value, there might not. But to really sell and make a profit on it means that you have to build it up with the intention of selling. Unless you just happen to walk into an offer. But for most people, it's a very intentional process that it doesn't just happen. It usually takes a few years to prepare for a sale.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's this analogy that I always like to say. It's that, people that gamble on the golf course, the deal's already won or lost on the first tee before the shots even hit. I mean, when you're selling your business, you have to look at attrition, multiple rates. You have to look at interest rates, all this stuff, attrition, book value. I mean, there's so many things that go into it, and especially per industry. I know there's RMA, risk analysis, and ways to do multiples in every industry, but still, it's like, you're only as good as your goodwill and your brand. And there's a lot of phase out programs where you can do 5 years, 4 years with the brand. There's so many different factors into selling that you really need to be very mindful and thoughtful, like Megan said, where you need to set the stage to get to that. I mean, we're a terrible business to purchase because I spend too much. So my multiple is dog water. We have a great time.
Wayne Gretzky said, you miss the 100% of the shots you don't take. What shots in your business do you regret not taking? And how do you determine which shots to actually take?
The biggest one for me was not building my team sooner. It was scary getting a payroll and be responsible for somebody else's income and livelihood, because in most cases, and luckily in all the cases for me right now, the coworkers are friends, right? And so you don't want to disappoint him. You don't want to lay him off or make a mistake. But I waited way too long to build that team around me to truly grow the business.
So I think the thing that I regret the most is I don't share enough. And that it sounds awful, but I don't share enough. I don't speak enough. I say no to speaking opportunities all the time. And it's more of a fear that holds me back. And that's my biggest regret if I think about it.
I don't have regrets, just a lot of learning opportunities.
I was just waiting for Zach to say something like that. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm a shot taker.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. If you look at our books and you go back the last 5 years, I mean, there's at least 6 figures of regrets I could show you, but they're all learning experiences and opportunities. You know, when I was a commercial real estate lender, I'd ask all my clients all the time, you know, why'd you do this? Why'd you go off on your own? Why didn't you just stay at the job? You're doing so well. You had security, you had insurance, you had consistent pay. Why'd you do it? And every single one of them have told me, I wish I would have started sooner. I wish I would have believed in myself more. And I wish I actually would have given it. And when you talk with colleagues and friends that you work with, especially that are very experienced, very successful, but never gave that one shot to put all their chips on the table and let it ride on red, you can kind of see that glimmer in their eye where they, you know, say, well, you know, we just had kids, you know, the pay was too good. And you just see this kind of like, they wish they would have taken the jump sort of regret. So when I saw that with my clients and also my colleagues at the 5-year mark at Wood Forest, I said, I don't care what I'm going to do. I had no idea what I was going to do actually when I resigned, but I said, I'm just going to go put it all on the table. And if it doesn't work out, I'll go back to banking. And I'm just super thankful that I've had a great support staff, amazing wife. I mean, literally, you cannot do this without, in my opinion, a faith in God and also a supportive spouse. Holy crap. She is really the loser in all this because she has to take care of me, emotional roller coaster. But I just think you got to, whatever it is, whether it's a hobby, a business, you just got to put your chips on the table for something in life and just throw caution to the wind and see if you hit or not.
Thank y'all so much. I think that concludes
Thanks for
our panel.
giving me your time, Brian.